We are at an absolute all-time low in regards to the recruiting, retention, everything else from the military. And what we're seeing right now is the proof in the pudding that we are letting a lower standard, a lower quality service member come into the military off the streets. Now, I'm going to read this document that has been leaked over at Reddit to discuss this because I just can't believe it's gotten to this point in time. So somebody leaks this and says, effective Monday, 5 December, you can join with an ASVAB of 10. And it says here, it was on the 2nd of December, so maybe that was this past week. But it says, Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Waiver, fiscal year 2023, program to recruit applicants with a Category 4 Armed Forces Qualification Test score. So to give context to a lot of you guys, the ASVAB is the basic score or test that is needed to judge your aptitude and inability to do a certain job within the military. So like if you score really low, you could end up as like a cook, right? If you're really high, you could be like a nuke or intel person, right? And it's supposed to determine your ability to go to this school, understand information, and perform in this job. Whether you actually do that is a whole nother story, but at least try not to waste some money from the taxpayer dollars. This says, to continue Navy Recruiting Command program allowing Category 4 applicants to join the Navy Delayed Entry Program per reference A. It says scope and applicability. The notice, which is effective 5 December 2022, is applicable to Navy Recruiting Command and all Navy recruiting activities. Navy recruiting activities includes all military and civilian personnel assigned to Navy Recruiting Command, Navy Recruiting Regions, Navy Recruiting Reserve, all these other places, okay, or similar units tasked with completing the recruiting mission of the United States Navy. So, what the entire Navy, okay? It says effective immediately, the Chief of Naval Personnel has granted Navy Recruiting Command permission to recruit and contract Category 4 quotations workforce Tier 1 high school diploma graduates who qualify solely based on rating line scores. Line score waivers will not be considered. No 11S Cat 4 applicants are authorized to be written due to the initial success of the pilot. The CNP, Chief of Navy Personnel, has approved up to 20% overall session as Cat 4. Navy Recruiting Command Pride will conduct weekly scrubs to ensure commands are adhering to this notice. Any Category 4 future sailors who are contracted and not in accordance with this notice will be attrited or, kicked out. So what they're saying from this is that 20% of the force is going to be able to score a 10 on the test is what they're going through here. Now, on top of that, they're going to scrub this list, and if they don't meet the requirement, they're then going to kick them out. And they have to have a high school diploma, okay? Now, I'll read the last part too, because it says the pilot period will be reevaluated in October 2023, which is a year from now pretty much. And if you have questions, read out to the command. Now, to give you guys some perspective, a couple things we have to look at. The military in general has been hurting for recruiting for years upon years. Now, factors contributing to that are people not being legally able to join due to drug charges. Medical issues. You had MHS Genesis, which could go back into someone's history and that be an issue of like, why were you taking X, Y, or Z medication? Now we're looking at the applicants that are actually able to come in based on the test is now being lowered even further. So when I look at this, I have to say, like, is the new population of what's being taught in school just not as smart? Like, what's being taught in schools? Because I'm like, has the test gotten harder? Have they revised it? They don't really talk about that in this regard. But it is now becoming what I would say is pretty much a laughingstock. If you guys don't remember, the Army only a few months ago had said that they were going to allow people without a high school diploma to join. And this is not even during a wartime. So it is surprising. So much so that people are now making memes says, you can now join the Navy. People are the 10 ASAP. If those kids could read, they'd be very upset. And that's because it's just playing into this like idea that the standards are not being lowered, but really what they're saying is they are. And if you guys also forget, the Army, I think it was 2017, had lowered the ASVAB score to 21, and they hushed up a military YouTuber named Art Chisel about this issue, even though it was factual information that the score was lowered and made it easier to join. So just putting that out there. And just to hear some of the reactions here, holy F, they're desperate for people. I'm pretty sure a squirrel on meth could score above a 10. I didn't even study and scored way above this. So I'm just baffled. A friend of mine was a recruiter in Connecticut, and she said scores under 20 were extremely common. So it's just insane. Like, the people that are not able to make the requirement just are now being allowed to join. Is it that bad? I mean, this guy says, when I was a recruiter, I had a couple college graduates who scored even lower. The vast majority of the applicants I interviewed were unable to pass the EST, which is the practice ASVAB we use at the time. For context, I was a recruiter for the year at that point, so it's not like I was just interviewing the wrong people. The sad truth is that however dumb you find some people in the Navy to be, they're the ones who made it through. A significant portion of the population has basically no ability to solve basic math problems and a serious problem with reading comprehension. And I look at that, and he's saying these people are college graduates that were not able to pass this test and were not able to solve basic math problems. So what are we teaching in colleges exactly? What is the message that's being sent? Are people just dumping money into these empty cesspools of think tanks that are out there and saying they're educated but not really educated? That's something that we should address here. It's baffling to me. This person says it's a 4 or 5 options multiple guess Scantron style test, though I bet the majority is computer administered. Straight up Christmas treeing that bee has a 20 to 25% success rate sometimes. So you're dealing with sailors dumber than that. And it's insane to me. You know, I will say this. The jobs that are going to be difficult to fill are your cooks, your bosun's mates, your people that maybe are doing more manual type labor jobs out there, and those are needed. However, the military has also cried wolf when it comes to the idea that we have intelligence gaps. We need people to fill these specific jobs. And so what I see here is we're going to see people that are signing up with a 10 ASVAB, if that's the case, getting bonuses to join under that, and probably come out on top, which is crazy. I'm all about people turning their lives around, right? But I also have to say these people are going to be expected to be on some kind of weapon system, that are going to have that responsibility and that education and comprehension of, if I say treat every weapon as if it's loaded, never point anything you don't intend to shoot, keep your finger off the trigger, and keep your weapon on safe until you intend to shoot, that you understand those basic directions and you actually will execute on those. And so I look at this from the craziest, extent of that. And then you could say, yeah, sure, they probably can just work in the job. It's really not that crazy anyway. But those are just some basic things of just comprehension I'm looking at. So, and what's sad is that the military has looked at this problem for the past couple years now and said, let's just throw money at it. And now that's where we're at, where we're just throwing money at anything. We're lowering standards left and right. And I don't know where the problem is. Is it the school system itself? Is it the standards of the military? Is it the new generation that just doesn't care or doesn't have the incentive? Where does this problem lie? Is it a multitude of those things? That is where I think the discussion of this will happen down in the comments below. And that's what I challenge you guys to say is, where do you think this lays at? And why do you think we're seeing such a diminished standard that's now been the case, where it's been known it was in the 30s for most of the branches across the board, and now we're at like a 10 or 11 or whatever this is? I'd love to know what you guys think. But as always, if you guys like this video or other topics like it, you can always hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.